Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on the Glutathione Authority. We have had some fantastic summer weather up here in Vancouver and we are incredibly grateful. I tried to get myself a little bit of a tan, but made sure that I optimized my glutathione, and I didn't get a tan at all. Nothing happened. No red, no color, no nothing. The glutathione protected me so much I got nothing. It was great. I super appreciate it. And I was in the sun all day.
I know.
All day.
People, that's just a hidden secret of optimizing your glutathione, is you are so protected from the oxidation of the sun rays. And
because people don't realize that you're actually creating free radicals in the body when you expose your body to the UV rays. And it can actually cause damage to your melanocyte, which will cause hyperpigmentation, hypopigmentation, and over a period of time can actually damage your DNA. So it can be particularly damaging, and more often than not people use sunscreens, and that is something that we will definitely talk about in the future because that is something I'm an expert on. But one of the absolute best ways to protect your skin is to actually just take an extra scoop of, or I should say package, of your Immuniti. Cheers.
Cheers. To a sunny summer.
And it'll actually protect you from burning. Now I did it before I went out and exposed myself to the sun, and then took another dose again in the evening. So preemptively armed myself, and then gave myself another dose to allow for the reparative mode that you go into when you sleep to be supported. So I would like to take a second and honor and recognize and reintroduce all of you lovely people to Alan Ogden, the Glutathione Authority, who is a pharmacologist. So he specializes in pharmacognosy. He has 4 nutritional degrees, a degree in geriatric medicine, and a degree in energy medicine, and 40 plus years in the industry, even though he doesn't even remotely look like it. I was actually talking to somebody, a really great guy who's been in the industry for 30 plus years himself, about Alan and how he actually has lessened the gray hairs as a result of optimizing his glutathione, and how it's actually supported his eyesight, not only not having to change his prescription in 10 years, but actually having it lessened as well. So I like to call him Benjamin Button all the time. So welcome, Benjamin Button.
Thank you. Actually, I'm working on a couple of things which we're going to talk about, but just briefly, one of them is reversing astigmatism, and I believe we've found a way to do that. So those of you who have really thick glasses or can't wear contact lenses, stay tuned. We will we'll keep in touch with that. And I wanted you to know that because of Saturday, Harmony brought her niece and nephew, and we went, and your son, right? And we went over to the Vancouver Police Mounted facility where all the horses are kept, and they have a really, really sick horse there. And I know one of the trainers. She wasn't there that day, but we did get to speak with one of the officers. And I promised Joanne that I would bring back some amino acids for their really sick horse. So I got to do that today.
Oh, nice!
Yeah. So
oh, that's fantastic.
Kristen was there, who's the trainer. So anyway, we will keep you in touch with that. So this is a horse that got a parasite, and the parasite triggered an immune reaction in him that is now causing his immune system to eat his muscles. And so that is the worst autoimmune disease, the worst autoimmune disease I've ever seen. He looks so hurt. I can't just, this makes me sad thinking about him. They're so beautiful. They're horses, and they're so well kept, of course, and well trained. So we'll keep you in touch with that. But anyway, so Harmony here is my partner in Glutathione Authority, which has been such a thrill. I can't believe it's like 3 years, 4 years, I don't know. But
3 years that we've been doing business together, and 4.5 that we've been buddies.
Cool. So women are supposed to keep track of all those dates. I know guys are too, but
yep.
That's why we have phones. And so when I met Harmony, she was sick. I got her taking the collagen protein. That was the very first thing right there, the Pro Beta, which made a significant difference in her life in like 7 days. And then because she really has a magnificent brain, we optimized her glutathione, and since that time she's become a hypnotherapist, trained in pranic healing, emotion code, body code, continues to study, continues to practice, and revolutionize her practice in emotion code, body code, and all those healing modalities, combining them into something that no one else has. And that is spectacular. The work you've done is just really spectacular.
Thank you so much. And he should know I've done some work on him, just so you know.
Yeah. And on Saturday she did some work on the horse. And
that is totally true.
yes.
And I didn't have access to a magnet because I generally tend to use a magnet. And Cadence ended up, my niece, having a bracelet, and she let me borrow it to do some of the work. And then the next day they actually went and got me this hematite ring. So now I actually have access to a magnet all the time to be able to do the healing work. And if you want to know what that means, you're just going to have to message me and I'll explain to you what that means.
Yeah.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to particularly and specifically talk about the ingredients that are in Immuniti, because there's several questions that I get asked over and over again. And so I really do want to clear up the confusion about these ingredients, why they're in there, and why we chose them as opposed to others. So just so you know, this formula took 14 months to come together. It wasn't like we decided on, Friday afternoon and then Monday afternoon we had a formula and threw it in a beautiful purple container.
Which is my favorite color.
Yeah. Harmony didn't know it was going to be purple.
I had no idea.
So this took a long time. And first of all, I want you to understand that every ingredient has an electrical charge. So we don't think about that, but things have electrical charges, and you know that because dust sticks to stuff.
I got electrocuted when I touched my microwave. I didn't even open the door or anything like that. It wasn't running, but I just happened to touch the side of it and I got an electrical shock. Or, we used to do this when we were kids. We used to run our feet on the carpet and then we would shock each other.
Yeah, exactly. Static electricity. So,
yeah.
So when you're putting formulations together, you have to keep in mind that they have electrical charges, and if you don't keep that in mind, what will happen is the formula will clump. It's one of the reasons why capsules are used a lot in nutritional product manufacturing, because then you're not so worried about it. You throw everything in capsule. You don't really care if it sticks. However, it's one of the bring that back in a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want everybody to be able to see it.
Right. In capsules. It's one of the reasons why, when they did the study, they've done it twice now in Canada, where they went to the health food store, all sorts of different stores, drugstores, bought supplements and took them back to a research lab and found out that 72% of the products that you buy in a store, take them in a capsule, actually have very little bioavailability. And the reason for that is because when they're making that formula, they only have to pump it into the capsule. And then they have no obligation to make sure it's available in your gut. Capsule breaks apart, those things can stick together, and so bioavailability is a big issue. And we wanted to make this bioavailable. One of the reasons why we made it a drink mix in the first place is so you would have to actually stir it up, separate out all the ingredients. The little amount of, what do you want to call it? Powder. People call it sludge when they're talking to me. Why is there sludge in the bottom of my glass?
This isn't the bog of eternal stench we're talking about here. It's a delicious fruity drink that tastes like Kool-Aid but happens to be incredibly amazing for you. So that's little minerals inside.
There's minerals, and one of the amino acids is also not water soluble, so it is going to settle out of the product. So you need to stir it, you need to constantly stir it a little bit while you're drinking it, and make sure you drink just rinse it out. I actually, what I do is with my glass, when I make stuff, I leave it, I fill it with water so it doesn't stick to the side, and then I use it later on in the day because you can just drink it. It's good for you.
Yeah, I like to use a latte mixer. Just go to the kitchen shop and go to get yourself a little latte mixer, and then you can keep it in your hands and then just whiz and keep it mixed up. It's really easy.
It's really easy.
Low labor, 4-hour work week.
So we can probably skip over a lot of the ingredients right off the top. People ask us sometimes, why is selenium listed twice? So the first of all, it's total carbohydrates, then it's selenium as selenomethionine. And then also in the Immuniti blend, it's listed again because it's part of the blend. So it actually does turn up twice on the label. It's in the vitamin mineral mix that we use. It's also in the amino acid mix that we use. So because they're coming from two separate sources, they must be listed separately.
Twice the goodness.
Twice the goodness. And they're the same ingredient, but it's just a label requirement that because they've come from two separate sources. So if we were to sort those out, or for some reason if we were to take the patented blend out, then one of those seleniums would disappear. Patented blend of amino acids. So as people scan down here, they come across folic acid. So I really want to talk about folic acid, because if you go to the web right now and you type in folic acid versus folates, you're going to get overwhelmed with a whole bunch of negative information. And this is one of the things that I often get asked about this product is, why does it have folic acid instead of folate? So folates come from plants. So methylfolate is supposedly more absorbable, and people call folic acid crap. They call it all sorts of stuff. It's a man-made product. It's a ingredient that won't absorb. It needs to be methylated. Well, I just have some really bad news for everyone. It doesn't matter whether it's folic acid or methylfolate in abundance. They're both equally toxic to the body. So just keep that in mind, that the amount of folic acid in a product needs to be controlled, because whether it's from your vegetables, plants, or whether it's from folic acid, it can cause the same toxicity in your body, which is a nerve toxicity. Why do we use folic acid? Folates, because they're in plants, have to go through a very specific, listen to me carefully, a very specific chemical process to be extracted from plants. So people think, oh, this methylfolate, it's like somehow it fell out of the plant and fell into your... When you're withdrawing something from a plant, as we did in pharmacognosy, you use different solvents, you use different types of chemicals to actually withdraw that. So what happens to your methylfolate is it's chemically altered as you withdraw it from a plant. So to really truly separate folic acid and methylfolate, you can't just say this. Like, if you're eating plants, they'll have methylfolate because it exists in nature. When you take folic acid, it needs to be methylated. That's true. And there's lots of people, and their concern is they have what's called the MTHFR gene mutation, which is a methylation problem. You hear Harmony talk all the time about Mr. Glutathione, who runs around turning on genes, turning on the control panel. When you're optimizing glutathione, it will methylate folic acid. It will automatically do that. You don't have to worry about it. And we have a number of people with that gene mutation who are taking Immuniti. They do not have any symptoms. Now, if you go to PubMed and you read about the symptomology of that gene expression, you will find that the symptoms of that are, well, in the one article, the scientist says they are 100% because of low glutathione. This product is there.
Wait, so it's not 95%, it's not 55%.
He says 100%.
100% of the time, Mr. Glutathione in his overalls is sleeping in the corner.
He is sleeping in the corner.
Okay, cool.
And your folic acid is not methylated and it becomes toxic.
So that switch, in order to be able to methylate that, he's sleeping, he hasn't turned it on.
That's right.
So giving him those amino acids that he needs to wake him up so he'll flick that switch, as soon as that's done, it will methylate, which is absolutely amazing to know.
Yes. Plus, with methylfolate. Now, people put methylfolate in their products, and they're all proud and pro about it. The stability of methylfolate is very, very low. So by the time you're taking a product with methylfolate in it, it could be down to 25% or even less. Remember, there is no requirement by a supplement manufacturer to prove you're getting anything out of their product. They only have to show they put it in. So they put methylfolate in. The stability is not as good as folic acid, and so then, but they don't have to ever prove that to anybody. So they can do all this marketing hype about we've got methylfolate in our product. They never have to prove that it's going to work. We know folic acid works. We know folic acid in the presence of glutathione is going to get methylated and it's going to work.
This is why we're so used to getting our multivitamin at $20 from a big, huge store, and the bottle's this big, and we just take it because we are used to not actually feeling any results. And the whole reason is because of the fact that a majority of the time there are actually no results. So if you're taking a product that is actually bioavailable, and more often than not, in the history of what I've researched and looked at, it's actually multi-level marketing companies that usually tend to produce the best nutritional products, because I feel like they're so much more held accountable for creating products that people have an experience with and will actually want to talk about. Yeah. Nobody talks about their $20 bottle of multivitamins that they take because they're not having an experience. So there's a really important question before you move on. So Tammy Gideus Landino, I hope I'm saying this right. Not to change the topic about folate, but what about prenatal vitamins then?
Well, that's an awesome question. And so I did 4 years of work in prenatal, postnatal, and what we did, and we didn't really, we didn't know to optimize glutathione at the time, but we were adding specific proteins and so on to the mom's diet. So we didn't have a problem. And in the tests that we're doing, we're using up to 5 milligrams of folic acid a day without any toxicity. And so that's a number of years ago, but
yeah, I remember taking folic acid when I was pregnant with Winston 19 years ago. I was told to take that.
They will give you at least a milligram, and in some cases they'll give you more, because it's specific to the neurology, development of neurology in the 3rd trimester of your child. And so
now I know why my kid's so smart.
Right. So we used to give up to 5 milligrams of folic acid at the time. So if you go to pubmed.org and read about folic acid and folate, you will not find the same information that you're finding on the web, that somebody's just thrown on there because they can, and they want to differentiate their product from the other products. And it really frustrates me because there's years and years of science and research that's gone on. We've used folic acid for 65 years in making multivitamins, and it's only in the last decade or so, maybe 15 years, that it became a problem. And what also became a problem at that time is lots of childhood illnesses, and then this whole gene expression thing. Well, what do we know about the overall population? Their glutathione level is very low.
Yeah.
So it's likely a result of low glutathione that we're getting a number of different things into it that we've never seen before. So anyway, so that's the folic acid. Yes, they use it in prenatal vitamins. They tend to, you can get prescription prenatal vitamins that will even have more folic acid in it, and it's been used for years. It's included with other B vitamins, and anybody that consults with me, I make sure they optimize their glutathione when they're pregnant.
When they're thinking about getting pregnant. Forget
so,
when you're pregnant. It actually has a big, huge integral impact in your ability to actually have viable eggs and sperm, and for it actually to happen, which it's still a miraculous thing. Scientists still don't know how the sperm gets in there.
Nope. Still no. Still don't know how it gets in an egg.
So Suzanne Parker Camarena is saying, so my doctor just diagnosed me as anemic, recommended a B complex and iron. Is that okay with Immuniti? So I'm just going to say something really quick, and then I'll let the experts speak, because anemia is something that I've actually suffered with my whole life. So I used to take a liquid iron supplement called Floravit or Floradix. And that actually had a vitamin B complex to allow for the iron to absorb. And that was pretty much what I lived on for many, many, many years. and suffered with a lot of dizzy spells all the time. And I definitely used to get so bad that I would black out, and I would need literally a good bloody steak in order to be able to recover. So ever since I've been taking the Immuniti, I've actually not had to take any type of other supplement. It literally gives me all of my dietary needs. So first and foremost, it is not a contraindication for any supplements that you're going to take. And if you're already taking the Immuniti consistently and you're noticing that your anemia is still low, then absolutely, if you're going to supplement with something, then Alan can probably tell you what are the best reputable places to go to up your supplement intake on those specific things. But I haven't had any problems at all, or had to supplement with vitamin B or iron since I've been consistently using the Immuniti.
It's cool. So we talked about the big three things that glutathione does, which is detox, inflammation, and immunity. One of the other things that it does, there's actually 5 things that glutathione does in the body. One of the other things that it does is it enables the attachment of iron to your red blood cells. So what Harmony is experiencing is a direct result of the fact that glutathione can now attach whatever iron is in her blood, can actually attach it to a red blood cell. Then it can pick up oxygen.
See, I don't know the science of it. I just know I feel better.
Right? So then it can pick up oxygen and do its job, and we need iron all sorts of places. So, but if you're still having problems, make sure that you're taking, so there's multiple kinds of iron on the market. There's ferrous gluconate, ferrous sulfate, ferrous fumarate. I wouldn't take any of those. They're the least expensive. Right, and that's usually what your doctor writes people, ferrous gluconate, whatever, 300 milligrams. So if you take a 300 milligram ferrous gluconate capsule, gluconate being a sugar, by the way, it's only 10% of the iron gets absorbed. So 300 milligrams, you're only getting 30 milligrams of iron.
Whoa.
270 milligrams is sticking to the inside of your intestinal tract. So please take ferritin, or one of the, there's a couple of other brands. There's Palifer and Ferritin. They're more expensive, but they do the job. So make sure you get one that's absorbable. Your pharmacist is very helpful in that regard.
If you want a private message us, Suzanne, about that, just to let us know whether you've been consistently taking the Immuniti or not, and get a little bit of support, because you might not remember everything you said. We are happy to chat with you in the Instant Message of Glutathione Authority Facebook page.
So that's a big...
I just want to recognize Lori Connell, who just showed up. Mwah! Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. So folic acid is the big one. That's the number one question I get asked. The number 2 question I get asked is, why do you have maltodextrin in the product? Well, that was a challenge. This took up 5 months of our time, actually, to try and find... I didn't want to use a silicate base, a dioxide base. I wanted to use a flow agent that actually had a little bit of sweetness to it, and it enhances the sweetness of the glycine. So we really don't have to add a lot of sweetness to this. The sweetness that you're getting in Immuniti is actually the amino acid glycine, which is naturally sweet, a little bit from the maltodextrin. There's not enough in there. It's milligrams. So for those of you who are diabetic and you're concerned about the maltodextrin content, remember that maltodextrin, yes, it can cause an insulin spike when it's given in grams. A milligram is 1,000th of a gram. We're adding milligrams to this. There's a little chance that this will ever cause an insulin spike in your body. So the maltodextrin was a flow agent that we could put in. It added a little sweetness. It keeps the molecules, the ingredients, from sticking together. And even though they're still excipients, which they're actually called, instead of gunk or sludge, they're actually called excipients. And it allows them actually to separate out, which is what they should do. They're not. That means they're not stuck to something and not available to your body. So that amino acid that is insoluble in water is available to your body. Now the really cool thing is when that amino acid gets in your mouth, there's a cellular receptor site on every cell in your body for that amino acid. So it is going to get used immediately. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to look for further absorption of that.
Which is exactly why we have it in the form that it's in and not in a pill. First of all, it's delicious, so why would you need to?
Right.
But as he said, every single cell in the body is actually very capable of optimizing glutathione, so why force it to wait? Just put it right in the mouth and let it do its thing.
Yeah.
Really quickly before you move on, I know you want to be all super serious, but this is really cute. So Darren Grosnick called us gluta superheroes.
Oh, Darren.
Our new big favorite word.
Darren would think of that word. Darren is just such an awesome friend.
Just wanted to recognize his awesome vocabulary.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's so cool. I want to skip to the top. If you have your immunity box in front of you like we do, I want you to skip back up to the top and I want you to look at vitamin A. And you'll see that it's 1,000 IUs. It's still measured in IUs. That's a very low dose of vitamin A. And the reason it's low is because we want this to be a product for kids. And kids are generally getting vitamin A in a lot of other things. It's actually added to a lot of food. So, as is vitamin D. Vitamin D is also added to a lot of different foods. Dairy has it in it. There's a lot of things where they add beta carotene, or they add palmitates and retinols. There's so many different kinds. We don't even have time to go there. But we wanted to keep it specifically low in case a child was taking this or got this and took a whole bunch of it, and we wouldn't have any vitamin A toxicity. So vitamin A is a fat-soluble vitamin. And vitamin A accounts for about 5% of the hospitalizations in the United States every year for vitamin A toxicity. Oh. That's what happens when a kid gets into your vitamins, your adult vitamins that have 7,500 international units or 10,000 international units, which is maybe okay for you as an adult, but it is definitely not okay for a child. So that's why it's intentionally low, so that kids can take this. And if kids really like this and they steal one or two while you're not looking,
which they might do, which they might do, like Kool-Aid,
then you don't have to
worry. You're not calling poison control or rushing them to the hospital.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the way with most of the vitamins in here. It's a really good multivitamin mix. It's not meant to be like super strong in that regard, because the intention of this is actually to optimize your glutathione. When you optimize glutathione, you optimize the effect of your B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin E, and all your other antioxidants in your body. So this is supportive to the glutathione. So I wanted to just mention that. I get that question, why is vitamin A so low? So why do we use folic acid? We now know why. Why do we use maltodextrin? We now know why. And why is vitamin A so low? Another thing that I get asked is how much CoQ10 is in here, because it's in the Immunity blend. CoQ10 is a really, really awesome, it carries oxygen to heart muscle. So many people that have had cardiovascular conditions, their doctor will actually advise them to go get CoQ10. And they'll take it in varying amounts, 60 milligrams to, it varies depending on the person's situation. The intention of this was not to make it a cardiovascular, to replace something that you would be taking because you have cardiovascular disease. Once again, we wanted to make this so kids can take this. We wanted to make this so everybody can take this. So this is not meant to replace a higher dose of CoQ10 that you would take because you have a condition that requires that. And remember that CoQ10 also is one of those that's really, really difficult to stabilize. And a lot of CoQ10 that's on the market really isn't effective. So if you are in that situation and you're taking it for cardiovascular, don't buy the cheapest CoQ10 you can find. You want to find one that has, and there's a couple of companies, you can PM me on this because I'm not going to promote people sort of openly here, but there are some on the market that actually have bioavailability studies done on them. What that means is they made the product, they let the product sit, then they tested it in a human, not a mouse. They actually tested it in a human to see what was excreted, so they know what the bioavailability, so they actually know what the person's getting. So we can talk about that if that's something that concerns you. So those are some of those are the big questions that I get. The other question is, how much of this can we take? So I put this back now. Those are the big ingredient questions that I get. The other question is, how much of this can I take? Well, that's another reason why we kept all the other ingredients lower than normal, is because when you're optimizing your glutathione, you may need to take 1 or 2 or 3 immunity to actually, depending on what it is your condition is. So if your condition happens to be Lyme disease or something like that, where Lyme disease can be a combination of parasites, bacteria, viruses, a whole bunch of different things, even amoebas. Lyme disease is sort of a basket, it's a catch-all for, gee whiz, you've got something really wrong in your nervous system and it's going into your muscles and we really don't know what's doing it, so we're going to call it Lyme. And you can get nodules on your spine. So those nodules can contain anything. And nobody knows what really caused that in the first place. Was it a parasite? Was it a virus? Was it a bacteria? It doesn't really matter, because once the damage is there, then it attracts all these other things. It's sort of like, there's a crack in the wall, all the bad guys come in and stand around and trade stories. So you might need to take more immunity because you're in that situation. And you can safely take 3 packages a day without exceeding a daily recommended dose of one of the other ingredients that's in immunity. So I'm just trying to lead you through some of the thinking that we went through when we were making this product, and kind of understanding the end user being from infants, because infants can take immunity, being from infants to the elderly, everybody in between, people that are just looking to optimize their health, so they're using immunity just as a daily supplement to optimize their health, and people that are struggling with a chronic condition that need to take more. So that's really our thinking behind immunity and why things are the way they are in immunity.
Yeah, with the immunity, I really don't think twice about taking a second dose of it if I'm feeling a little bit sluggish, or if the little hamster on the wheel in my brain, George, is laying in the fetal position, I'll take a second dose instead of going for ibuprofen, Advil, any of the long list of painkillers. If my head's not feeling well, I go for a dose of immunity. And it's absolutely amazing how that actually makes all the difference. And with all of the, effects, negative effects that those painkillers have in the body, I would much rather be going to something that's actually going to be waking up Mr. Glutathione and flicking the switch to actually help George to revitalize and get back on the hamster wheel, than to take something that's actually going to make me forget that George is on the floor in the fetal position.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So if we remember what the real purpose of immunity was in the first place, it was to optimize glutathione. And that's really the number one job of immunity. Everything else that's included as an ingredient in there is supportive to the events that glutathione is involved in. So the selenium, all the other things that are in there are supportive of glutathione. Has 250 processes, so we're not going to tonight go through 250 different things that glutathione does and why each individual ingredient would have some play in that situation. You're not going to remember, and you're going to fall asleep before I get to number 6. So
yeah,
just understand that this was really thought through. There was a gentleman engaged in the formulation process of this who's been 25 years. He's an incredible. He's got an MD plus a couple of other degrees, and he is the one who we really chatted this through with, and he's the one who made some of the final decisions about, yes, we're going to use folic acid, yes, we're going to use maltodextrin, because we can't find anything that's better. If we could find something that's better, we would use it. The stability of methylfolate is still questionable, and another thing with methylfolate, it will mask vitamin B deficiency in elderly people, and we didn't want that to be happening. So lots of thinking went into this. It's a great product. Once again, we've made a product. It's really unique in the marketplace because infants to the elderly can take immunity. And that is an incredible accomplishment by the people that were involved in making this product.
Lori Connell was saying that she's had 3 a day before, and there are definitely times when I take that many and don't think about it. There's just no two ways about it. More often than not, it's 1, but then I might take 2, and if I'm on the couch feeling sick, it's definitely going to be 3.
Yeah.
So, you know, we absolutely recommend that the minimum intake is every single day to keep your glutathione optimized, and obviously to get all the other nutrients and minerals and everything that are in there. And I, you know, have found that taking this is my multivitamin. I don't take any other multivitamins. I don't supplement with a vitamin A. I don't supplement with a vitamin B or a C, or the only thing that I ever typically tend to do, and not all of you guys suffer from this, but like months and months and months of gray and rain. It's kind of a Vancouver thing. So there is a particular issue that a lot of people that live in Vancouver suffer with called SADS.
Yeah.
Which is seasonal, what is it?
Seasonal affective disorder.
Seasonal affective disorder, thank you, SAD, which is so perfect, right? So as a result of that, obviously, you know, we do take a little bit of extra vitamin D. That being said, I do like to supplement as naturally as possible. So when the dandelions came out, I harvested them and made dandelion jelly so that I can get a natural source of vitamin D. So, you know, if you take your Immuniti every day and you're getting the vitamins and nutrients out of that as your staple, then start to look at the foods and the nutrients that you're taking, because your foods have so many vitamins and nutrients in them in harmony. It's so beautiful. You don't have to go and take a separate vitamin this and a separate vitamin this. Kale, if you massage it in olive oil and you put it in your salads and stuff, is high. It's the highest iron, Suzanne, that you can actually get in a vegetable. So I actually like to do kale, and I'll do dehydrated kale and put stuff on it and have kale chips and that kind of stuff. So start looking at and learning a little bit more about the vitamins and nutrients that are actually available to you from your farmer's market and in your nutrients to help supplement the beautiful array of vitamins and nutrients and minerals that you're actually getting from the Immuniti.
Yeah, because green and gives you gas, it has to be good for you.
Yeah, I completely agree. But if you're having a little bit of a lull too, don't forget that the energy is absolutely fantastic for giving you a very natural little bit of a perk. I absolutely love using that when I need, you know, a little bit extra. And for Suzanne too, I would absolutely highly, highly, highly recommend that you're chewing on the Probita every day. That absolutely makes a huge difference, because when you wake up first thing in the morning, your body's gone into fasting mode, and how many hours has it gone without eating? So there's no way on God's green earth I can work out without eating. It doesn't work. For somebody who's anemic, it doesn't go well. You're just going to end up passing out. I've gotten up from my exercise machine and almost blacked out before. So I always have a couple Probita at the very least, if I'm not going to have a full meal with protein, and then I'll exercise, and I don't have any problems as long as I get the Probita in me. So really starting your day, like just go straight to your cupboard or wherever it is that you keep it and take 1 or 2 Probita to start your day. That'll actually really, really help you with the anemic attacks and stuff like that, and the dizzy spells and such. It makes a huge difference for me.
Do you want to know why?
Sure, tell me the science why.
So Probita is rich in the amino acid arginine. And amino acid arginine actually relaxes the cardiovascular system and increases blood flow. So anemic person needs more blood flowing around, takes a couple of Probita. The arginine relaxes the cardiovascular system. It also helps in the production of nitric oxide. And nitric oxide really is a power generator for people that are doing exercise. They're using up their energy stores. They need to be making proteins. And nitric oxide is very integral. You can go read all about it. Somebody won a Nobel Prize for figuring out how important nitric oxide is to our overall health. The other thing it is, it's very rich in glycine. It's actually the richest source of glycine. So if you're a vegan, there is no other source on the planet as rich in glycine than collagen. And I know some people really have a struggle with, the fact that it's from the derma of a cow or whatever. But there is no other source of glycine as rich as that. And glycine is involved in absolutely every process in your body. It's the one amino acid that is literally involved in everything. So you name it, glycine has something to do with it. We're talking the manufacture of hormones, glycine has something to do with it. We're talking neurotransmitters, glycine happens to have something to do with it. We're talking muscle restoration repair, glycine will have something to do with it. Glycine is it's very, very important for our body. And 33% of that little chew happens to be glycine. And about 20% happens to be arginine, 20% happens to be proline.
So it's absolutely fantastic to be taking pre or post workout, pre and post workout.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the perfect. It's actually so much better than whey protein because whey protein is high in leucine, isoleucine, and methionine. Methionine can actually break down to homocysteine in your body. So if you're not taking a lot of B vitamins and you're working out a lot and you're using a lot of whey protein, the methionine can break down into homocysteine. Homocysteine is actually a plaque that sits around in your body. You ever wonder why somebody who's looking really good and exercising every day all of a sudden has a cardiovascular accident? That's because of the homocysteine. That's because they were eating way too much protein that was high in methionine, and they did not have enough B vitamins, and it forms instantly. It forms a plaque instantly, which also disappears instantly, which is why it took so long to figure out why these people were having heart attacks. 47% of the people, healthy people, didn't smoke, exercised regularly, that have heart attacks. It took many years to figure out that it was the homocysteine because, boom, it forms, makes a plaque, plugs something, and then it releases right away. So
it's not leaving evidence.
It's not leaving any evidence. No,
that's amazing.
It's amazing. It actually took, there was a researcher at UBC dedicated 12 years of his life, and he was the one who actually found and identified this the homocysteine plaque.
Yeah, because more often than not, people think that somebody that's really healthy, they just say, well, it's just genetic, or like it's in my family history or whatever. So
not true.
They just explain it that way.
They explain it that way, and they were explaining it that way because they did the Florida nurses study. For those of you in Florida, they did a huge cardiovascular study called the Florida Nurses Study. 89,000 people participated in the study. And they were baffled by this statistic that 47% of the people that were having cardiovascular problems, and ultimately most of those were fatal, were people that didn't smoke, didn't have high cholesterol. I mean, by all the vital signs or the risk things that we measure, they were totally healthy, and yet they would, boom, just have a heart attack. And that's because of low B vitamins, not being able to convert the methionine in your body. So if you're eating lots of protein, you need lots of B vitamins. It easily cleans out the homocysteine. And
but with this, the thing that's really fantastic is you could literally just have collagen protein and that just won't be a thing.
That's right, yes. Yeah. So collagen protein is very low in methionine, very low in leucine, isoleucine. And people they have this idea branched chain amino acids are so dynamic and important for building muscle, and they are, but they're just something that you need to watch for. And I love collagen protein. It builds.
Nothing compares to the availability of the collagen protein. So with the whey protein, you're getting 55%, and with the collagen protein, you're getting 95%.
Yeah.
Basically. And if you're looking at a vegan protein, like a brown rice protein or a pea protein or any of those, you're getting about 12%. So whenever you're looking at the numbers on your package, just bring it down to the number of what your actual body is receiving.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's a question I get asked quite often is, because if you go onto the web and you read that whey protein is easily absorbed, and
half of it is.
So when people do protein absorption testing, they're doing them in a test tube. They're doing them in a lab. So they take a liquid, a fluid that mimics blood, it mimics whatever, and they throw protein in there and they see the absorption rate, and it's like really good. So brown rice protein's really good and all this kind of stuff. Well, we're not a test tube, we're actually a living organism, and it's not that the amino acids are not in those things. Those all have a really excellent variety of amino acids. The challenge is, generally speaking, what they're mixed with and the transit time. So with your vegan proteins like pea protein, rice proteins, all those kinds of things, they have a very, very slow transit time. And there's a very brief place in your intestinal tract where you absorb the majority of your proteins. And so if they're not absorbed in that time, it's a challenge to get the absorption. So it's a challenge to get the amino acids in a form. So they have to be, they have to get into they're acidic in your stomach. They have to turn into an alkaline medium in your intestinal tract before they get absorbed. And what happens is a lot of those are pushed through that space where amino acids are absorbed in your intestinal tract. And so yes, you did put them in your body, but they didn't get into your body literally because they went past where they could be absorbed. And that's when we do true protein studies, that's one of the challenges, is your gut transit time makes a huge difference on the amount of protein. And so people that are consuming large quantities of protein, whether it's vegetable protein, doesn't matter to me. If you're using a lot of vegan protein, you need to probably take digestive enzymes along with it to ensure that you get the amount of protein that you think you're getting or that you want to get, or at least maximize the product that you're taking. And you'll see that some people that are making vegan proteins or even whey proteins now are actually including digestive enzymes, because that shows you that it is a challenge.
So can we touch base on soy protein, which is pretty much in an obscene amount of products?
Oh, soy protein is ubiquitous in food supply. Soy, you can't, if you're buying food replacement bars, you can hardly pick up a food replacement bar that doesn't have soy protein or soy protein crisps or soy something in there. And yeah, so first of all, gosh, probably now almost 100% of soy protein is GMO. And I'm not, I mean, people, there's very little soy protein that's not been touched by Monsanto. Let's just put it that way. Soy protein came out a number of years ago. Actually, Barry Sears, who wrote the diet book called The Zone, he wrote another book called The Soy Protein Miracle, and then he retracted everything that he wrote in that book about 5 years later, and advised people, if they have children under the age of 4, never to feed them soy protein at all, and that there should be a maximum daily intake of soy protein of 4 grams, which is a very tiny amount. It's like 1 pro beta, and that's because it's a mimicker. It mimics estrogen, it mimics female hormones, and it mimics other endocrinology in your body. It's getting too complicated. I've got to slow this down because I'm getting too scientific. Just remember that it mimics your hormone, and it actually competes for receptor sites for some of your really important hormones. So the consumption of soy protein is one of my favorite topics to certainly talk about with vegans who are eating edamame, and they're eating all sorts of, they don't think that's soy, but that's actually soy. It's kind of disguised because it's edamame. Am I saying that right?
Edamame.
Okay, edamame.
That's the way the Asians say it.
Edamame, please.
Edamame.
So they're eating that, not realizing that's soybean. And yeah, it's probably GMO, and it's probably not being digested.
A lot of women that are trying to get pregnant will generally tend to have a difficult time as a result of that. Somebody that I know that was having a really difficult time with with her reproductive system actually ended up realizing that her diet was hugely estrogen heavy, and that soy had a lot to do with it. And she was actually put on a diet plan or health plan that was more testosterone based, lowering the estrogen elements. So anything that is messing with your endocrine system is absolutely not good, and especially for men. If you're looking to have a child, do not take soy, and it's really important to pay attention to that because it's so cheap and easy to access. And you know, we have to look at the fact that a majority of the time too, in order for soy to be able to be extracted and utilized, there's formaldehyde used in the process. So now we're dealing with carcinogens. And that's incredibly important to be aware of. If we can really limit or, at least try to eliminate our exposure to carcinogens as much as humanly possible, especially things that you're ingesting, it's absolutely important. And it's really important to look at, stuff like formaldehyde in your nail polish and in your, your shellac and in your, lipsticks and in your skincare products and stuff. The amount of stuff that we're exposing ourselves to puts me in a position where I'm really happy that I'm consuming Immuniti.
Yeah. I think a lot of people...
Because I can read stuff forever and it puts you to a point where you're like, I'm so paranoid. I don't want to wait. My house is dangerous. Where do I go?
Yeah.
Just put me in a bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm really, really grateful because the thing is we're going to read lots of books that are going to tell us that the government allows these chemicals to be utilized and they don't have to put it on labels.
Right.
And so you don't even know how to protect yourself. You're trying to be a savvy consumer and you go and you read the labels and you're pretty sure you know the names of all the chemicals, but then they don't even have to label this one. So there's no way that you can protect yourself. So the best thing that you can possibly do to arm your body is to make sure that your glutathione is optimized, because that is one of the master detoxifiers in the body.
Yeah, when I go shopping, I'm going around the grocery store, and I know that people are just totally confused, and they give up and they just buy anything and eat it, because it seems like, tomorrow there's going to be another news headline that this is bad for you and causes whatever, causes cancer or whatever. And you get to that point, it's sort of like, what can I really, what can I eat? And you have this war with food, and I just feel so much... I just feel a sense of relief and comfort as I'm going down the grocery aisles, and I'm, you're buying this, you're buying that. And particularly when I'm watching this, because people spend a lot of money on organic food.
Yeah.
That's because they never worked in a grocery store. I worked in a grocery store. So when we're storing vegetables, yes, they're separated out, but the guy who's actually putting out the fruits and vegetables, they are trained. But it's a job that people don't stay at very long. So
they get barely above minimum wage.
Yeah, so the guy putting out fruits and vegetables, his job is to fill the counter. So I've often seen carts mixed with organic and inorganic, piled up, taken out. They're going to put those out, and they don't discriminate. Yes, they wear gloves, but they don't discriminate. They put out the...
But are they taking off their gloves before they handle the organic stuff when they finish?
No.
Exactly.
No,
they're not worried about cross-contamination.
No, they're not.
As much as they should be.
As much as they should be. So they did a study in California not too long ago, and they found out that organic, if it wasn't locally grown, and you knew the dude kind of growing it, that organic vegetables had almost as much herbicide and pesticide as the other stuff. That's not because it was done at the farm, that's because it was done in the transportation and in the handling of the product. So, I look at all that stuff, and how can you possibly protect yourself? Optimize your glutathione. That's what nature has been protecting us. We exist as a species because we had glutathione. That's how we existed. And people say to me, well, Alan, how did they get glutathione years ago? They ate raw meat. Yep, they did. Because there was nothing else to eat. They would eat raw meat. And you can get the amino acids, you can get cysteine, and you can get the other amino acids from raw meat. And they ate raw meat. Now, we don't eat raw meat. It's culturally not acceptable for us to eat raw meat. So we have to supplement with something else, because we cook our meat, which destroys the cysteine. We cook our vegetables, asparagus, broccoli, etc. Even if you eat them raw, there's the cysteine in it is easily oxidized and it's easily consumed by the bacteria in your intestinal tract. So your chances of getting cysteine and optimizing your glutathione, even though you can go to the web and you can read about it, Dr. So-and-so has a thing on 10 top vegetables you need to eat to optimize your glutathione. It's avocado, it's broccoli, it's asparagus, it's a bunch of other stuff. It's nonsense. You'll never, ever get an immunological response. I'm not saying you shouldn't eat those things, but
if you want to eat 50 pounds of broccoli,
right,
have at it. Let me know how that goes.
You have to eat so much of that stuff because it's first of all, it's minuscule quantities, but then it's oxidized and it's consumed by our bacterial flora. They love it. They want to optimize their glutathione too, so it's not made available to your body. And why is it not absorbed here as you're chewing your vegetables? Because it's wrapped in cellulose. It's wrapped in whatever that vegetable is. You know, it's wrapped in stuff that we don't digest. And so it's wrapped in that, and it gets down into the gut, and the cysteine gets absorbed by the bacteria, or it just gets excreted. So supplementation to optimize glutathione is absolutely necessary. It's been clinically proven now since 1978 in Canada, which I think is getting pretty close to, that's like 50 years.
Yeah. And
close, anyway.
Backtrack a little bit, and I just want to, really highlight the fact that you were talking about the gut flora, which is really, it goes through our body. It's a part of our body, but it's actually separate from our body. And that's something that's really important to note, that the gut flora does want to be fed, that we do have these microbiomes that are in our body that do want to be fed and need to be nurtured in order for us to be healthy. But the thing is if you're eating those fruit and vegetables, you're nurturing them, and it is completely separate from the rest of your body. So it isn't actually getting released and utilized throughout the rest of your body, like taking the amino acids would to optimize your glutathione throughout your whole body. Because 50% of the glutathione is in your liver, right? 10% is actually in each and every one of the cells in your body. So it needs to flow all throughout the body to be able to optimize every single one of the 250 processes that it plays in your body. So trying to optimize that and allow it to be able to reach its full potential, you're not going to be able to do that by consuming it in vegetables.
No, it's not possible. So
I just wanted to highlight that just so that you guys really get what he said, because I know each and every word that he says is incredibly important, but sometimes he's so excited that he speaks really, really quickly. So I like to backtrack and just highlight those major points so that you guys understand the major difference between taking immunity and taking those precursor amino acids and trying to get it from a natural source like broccoli. And I'm not telling you not to eat your broccoli. I love broccoli, but there is a huge difference. And this is why, we're incredibly proud to be a part of Visi and to be representing the Immuniti, and, to have been able to help orchestrate the making of this product. And, it completely changed my life, getting access to these precursor amino acids, because what I had access to before, which was the exogenous glutathione. So that means that the glutathione was produced before it came into contact with my body. It helped, but I still would end up in pain. Now you guys know, my story. I had a concussion. But I would use my brain, and by midway through the day, I would be in pain, and then I would be complaining to Alan going, what am I supposed to do? Like, what else do I have to take? I'm pretty sure I've optimized my glutathione. I'm taking it every day. So what's next? And we ended up realizing that only 10% of the exogenous glutathione is actually being utilized by the body, because my glutathione is my personalized glutathione. It is not the same as the exogenous glutathione that I'm actually putting in my body. It's totally different. My glutathione is personalized. Alan's glutathione is personalized. My son is personalized. Each and every one of you have personalized glutathione for the health experiences that you've been through. So what you need to do, and what I needed to do, was get the precursor amino acids into my body and allow my body to go, oh, okay, I've got the building blocks, and then build the castle and then optimize its own personal glutathione. And once that happened, I was able to work all day pain-free. And I literally got my brain back. I got my sense of humor back. And that was what enabled me to be able to go back to school and get my education in hypnotherapy and energy healing and all the stuff that I'm pursuing. And it made a huge difference for Alan as well. So what we have discovered here, this new discovery that we have our own personal glutathione, and that we need to get those amino acids as opposed to just going to the store and buying a $20 bottle of saturated glutathione or L-glutathione or whatever it is monumental. So if you're trying to explain this to anybody that has a child that is getting glutathione by IV because they're going in to see the doctor, or they want to just go buy it from the drugstore. This is what really makes the difference. And can we just quickly touch base on glutathione by IV as well?
Well, it's the same thing. It's exogenous, made into hopefully made into glutathione in your cell. That may or may not happen. So anyway, I wanted to wrap up with just saying, so for those of you, I know we've gone for about an hour. For those of you who have had people who have questions about folic acid, the other ingredients, the maltodextrin, etc., that we covered that in the first 15-20 minutes of this video. You can get it to them, and hopefully that will satisfy their concerns, and they will enjoy taking Immuniti. It tastes good, it works good, and it's good for you. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. And if you have any questions post-production, please feel free to send us a message and we will happily respond. We are going to post this video on YouTube for anybody who wants to take it and share it with people that are not on Facebook. We really appreciate each and every one of you for joining us and for helping to spread the message. Also, if you want to share this throughout Facebook, it's also very shareable and open source. So have at her, and we love and appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll see you again next week. Bye, guys.